Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hi friends, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite free design resources. And as a graphic designer, we need a lot of resources at our disposal because we are constantly relying on other assets to create our art, especially for clients. And so I just kicked my drawers. So today we're going to be covering some big categories of assets that I think everybody should have in their archive. So we're going to be covering stock. So we're gonna go over like free photo sites, free vector sites, free illustration sites, free video and audio stuff in case you guys ever need it. We're gonna be covering my favorite free mockup sites, some amazing places to get free fonts, free textures, and finally we're gonna close with my favorite Adobe alternate programs. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm super excited for this one. If you're new here, if you're watching for the first time, my name is Kel. I use they, them pronouns, and I welcome you to my little design community here on YouTube. I welcome everyone here, and if you want to leave any sort of assets or resources that you suggest that I may have left out in this video, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. Help each other out so we can make this community much more welcoming and we can slowly take down the Adobe overlords. So the first thing we're going to be starting off with is stock. So this is photos, videos, vectors, icons, illustrations, audio, all that jazz. So all of the sites I'm about to talk about are safe for commercial use unless they're otherwise noted in their description. So as you're going through all of this, be sure to check the licensing. You don't want to get yourself or your client in some hot water if you did not follow the proper licensing for a photo or a video or whatever. So it's under the Creative Commons license, so it's a public domain dedication, so you can copy, modify, distribute, perform the work, even for commercial purposes, all without asking permission or paying for something. So this is really, really great, especially for like new designers, because assets can get really expensive. So let's get started. My number one go-to, and it has been for years, is Unsplash. If you are unfamiliar with Unsplash, it's gained quite a bit of popularity in the past couple years, but Unsplash is consistently, I think, one of the best stock photo sites that has everything completely free. So you can use it for personal use, commercial use, absolutely free. Of course, if you can credit the photographers, do give them the exposure that they need. But Unsplash is an awesome site. I've used them since I was in college. I use them still to this day. They have like a different approach to stock photos because it's all like it's all sourced from photographers instead of kind of like, not like sourced from photographers, what do I want to say? But the photos just are better than like your regular stock photo site. So Unsplash continuously amazes me, but I do see some of like the classic Unsplash photos overused a little bit too much. I know when I see a photo in an ad somewhere, I'm like, I know you got that from Unsplash, but nothing wrong with that. I just dig on there for hours on end. Anyway, so Unsplash is just for photo. The next one is Pexels.com. They have photo and video that are completely royalty free and free for commercial and personal use. Their video selection is small, but it is still pretty good. I would say Pexels is like a close second to Unsplash. After that, we have Pixabay. This one is photo, video, illustrations, and I believe audio too. So if you need like any sort of like royalty free music or sound effects, they have you covered there. And it is cool because they also have illustrations that you can download for free that are free for public use. And then we have a little hidden gem that I think more people are finally starting to catch on to, which is publicdomainvectors.org. I've been using this for years, and I know this site looks a little corny, but sometimes you can find some really good vectors in there. If you're looking for something like a little bit cheesier in a kind of like an ironic way, if you want like something really clip arty, you can like find it there. I found some really cool, funny gems in there, and so definitely a good one. Next, we have reshot.com, which is vectors, illustrations, and photo. Fantastic site because it has those vectors and illustrations free for commercial use. And then for a very specific one, which I wish I knew about more when I was younger and working in like an agency where we had really limited stock photo use, is foodiesfeed.com, and it is just food photography. If you are a designer, you you know how hard it is to come up with really quality food photography sometimes if you don't have a budget to shoot something. So this is a fantastic site. It's really great for like blogs too. So that's foodiesfeed.com. Next, we're going to be diving into mock-ups. Now, I am a big believer in quality mock-ups. They can make or break an idea you're trying to convey to a client or really anyone viewing your work. And sometimes you can make your own mock-ups if you have the time and the space to be able to like shoot everything. But especially when I was younger and in college and like starting out, I did not have like the resources to do that. And I relied really heavily on free mock-ups that were like high quality and didn't look like, sometimes mock-ups can just look a little too much like mock-ups. So I wanted to include sites for you guys that don't have too many super corny mock-ups and ones that I actively use. So it's really good to have like a big archive of these so you can just go and pull them whenever you need to just mock something up, and you don't want to re-download these files a bunch of times because sometimes they're like a gig and that's going to take up a lot of space on your computer. So by far my favorite mockup site is mockupworld.co. This is where I get the majority of my mockups I use in my videos, and I think it consistently has like the highest quality, easiest to use, and they have like little packs, so you have like one view of something and then like you have 3 or 4 other files within that zip that you download, so you have like different angles of something. It could be like different signage, could be different overlays, all sorts of good stuff. And that kind of applies with like all of these mockup sites, but mockupworld.co is definitely my go-to. Before I found Mockup World, I used graphicburger.com like it was the Bible. I used it like crazy, especially when I was in college. I think there are some limitations with the mockups that you can find on there. I think they're pretty common mockups because this site like took over the mockup world like 7 years ago. So Graphic Burger is pretty good. Just another one to have like in your archive. Unblast.com is a new one that I found pretty recently. They have a lot of like good assets all around, but they do have a pretty good mockup selection. And the last one on our mockup list I included because I've used some mockups from there before. It's psdmockups.com. I think this one's pretty good. It does have some cornier mockups that look a little too mockup-y. And as far as I remember off the top of my head, all of these are completely free. You can like pay money for some mockups. Some like if you really like one, it'll go through enough clicks, it'll bring you to another site where you have to pay for it. And that's completely up to your discretion if you have the budget to pay for something like that. But I would definitely say Mockup World is my absolute favorite. And they have just so many on there. But, you know, if I didn't include something in here, leave it down in the comments or, you know, just click around, go, do some Googling. All right, next we're moving on to the most exciting section, which is fonts. And if you follow my channel, I get all of my fonts, not all, the majority of my fonts through Adobe Fonts because all of my stuff that I do like client-wise is all like major commercial work. So I have to have a commercial license and I don't always have the budget to just go and buy another font if I really like it. If I do have the budget for it and they want a specific font, we'll go buy it. But just across the board, because all of my work is commercial, it's just easiest for me to use Adobe Fonts and I'm already paying for it anyway, so I might as well use the resource that's there. But doesn't mean that there aren't other really cool sites that I use and pull from all the time, and I think you guys should use them too. So the top one on this list that is one of the most unique because it's one that I found pretty recently and I think the UX of it is pretty good, and I already mentioned it, is Unblast. They have, like I said, a bunch of resources, but they also have a pretty good font section. The majority of the fonts are free for personal use only, and then you can also buy the commercial license, but this is great if you're a student and just doing student work. There's some really like unique fonts I think that you would see more in like Creative Market that you have to pay for, but these are free for personal use. And there's just some really unique ones that I like don't see very often. So definitely a cool resource. That's unblast.com/fonts. The next one is an obvious one, but I forget about it quite frequently as someone who uses Adobe Fonts, is Google Fonts. Back when I used to do web design, I like got it stuck in my brain that Google Fonts was only for web design because I would only code it into sites, and I forgot that like you can download the fonts from Google Fonts. So really great place for all of like your classic fonts. It's very similar like UX wise to Adobe fonts, a lot of really great classic ones. So it's just good to have in your archive because they're free anyway. Don't forget about Google Fonts. Now, this was another one that I stumbled upon in my research to make sure like I had enough for each one of these categories, but a site that I used to frequent a lot when I was doing web design was awards or awards.com, which is primarily a web design site, but they also have other design related stuff. And they have a section of free fonts right now. I don't know how long it's been up or how long it will be there, but they have a really, really cool group of fonts up there right now. All of this will be linked below, by the way. But really, really cool stuff. It's mixed like personal and commercial use, but definitely worth checking out. There's some really like unique typefaces in there. Yes. Okay. Now, these next two are really awesome because they are doing what I love to see in design, and that is open source type. So the first one is Open Foundry, and Open Foundry is a completely free platform that has a huge archive of just like beautiful fonts, and they're all completely free because they're an open source type foundry. The next open source foundry we have is Velveteen Type. If you've seen my favorite fonts video, I mentioned Frank Adobe. He is an incredible type designer, and he's been working on Velveteen Type for quite a while and has some really beautiful open source typefaces that you can download for free for commercial use, personal use, whatever. Now, this last one isn't completely free, but they do have a pay what you can option, which I think is really cool, and that is losttype.com. They are just a group of type designers who primarily specialize in like older, more retro style typefaces. It's like very similar to like a lot of the typefaces that the Hutzpah sisters design. Really awesome. I've downloaded a few fonts from them before, and it's just a really, really cool collection of designers. All the money that you pay to them go directly to the designers so they can keep making these really unique typefaces. Now, this next section is also one of my favorites. I mean, all of these are really my favorite sections, but this next section is textures. I am a huge believer in textures in design. They are so important. And the number one tip, the best resource I can recommend to anyone is to make your own textures. There are a lot of like semi-okay sites out there. You can use sites like Unsplash and download like concrete textures if like that's what you're looking for. But in my humble opinion, one of the best things that you can do is find a scanner, whether it's at school, at your work, an old printer from your parents, get a printer from Goodwill, whatever it may be. Like if you can get your hands on even a cheap scanner, like the payback is tenfold. I have a scanner that we originally got for scanning film strips, and it's what I scan everything on. I'm scanning paper textures, I'm scanning like little pieces of thread, I'm scanning flowers, I'm scanning t-shirt textures. Like just if you can like think of it, just scan it and keep it in your archive, because you can just drag and drop it straight into your files, manipulate it however you see fit for your work, and then it's just yours. You know what you're scanning, you know all of like the assets that you have. It is, in my opinion, the best way to get a really good texture library going. Just start scanning everything. If you can't scan, start taking pictures of everything, either with your phone or if you have a camera or something. Just take pictures of it, drag and drop into your programs, and then manipulate it from there, just from like a picture. I do it all the time with flowers. Sometimes I can't scan flowers in the way that I want to, but sometimes it's easier for me to just snap a picture with my phone and then use that. Or if I need like a more interesting texture of like a piece of fabric or like a t-shirt, like I need like a really nice fold with some volume in it, I'll just take a picture with my phone and then use that. So all of that, if you can think of it, you can scan it or take a picture of it for your own textures. Now, if you do not want to do that, which I totally get because it's a lot of work, my favorite texture site, and there aren't too many out there, is Texture Fabric. I've mentioned them a few times in some past videos. I do think they have a pretty good library of some like scanned textures, some like kind of like speckly spray textures, some photocopy textures. So they have a pretty good archive. If you have other suggestions for textures, let me know down in the comments, because that I feel like is my weakest category in regards to resources. But I also make pretty much like 95% of the textures that I have. So now time for the last section of this video. And these are the best alternates to the Adobe programs. I will disclose off the bat, I currently use Adobe, and that is only because it's what I've been using for more than 10 years, and it's burned into my brain. And that's really it. That's the only reason why I use Adobe, because I am really hesitant to learn new programs. It's not something I enjoy. So I do use Adobe, but I know a lot of people don't use Adobe, and that includes some pretty major like industry designers I know who have never touched an Adobe program in their life, and they want to keep it that way. And so I've talked to a lot of people about the other programs that they use, as well as like new people who have like picked up some like interesting and unique programs along the way. And so I think that this is roughly some of like somewhat top tier programs as Adobe alternates. That was a really long-winded way to say here are the best dupes for Adobe. And not all of these are 100% free, but I do think that they are far more affordable than the highway robbery that is the Adobe subscription. If you have the full Adobe suite, you are paying $52.99 a month for 2 seats. So that's a lot of money. And you can get pretty much all of these other programs for less than $100, and then you have them for life. You never have to pay for them again. Adobe. Anyway, so in no particular order, one of the top programs that I have found for a Photoshop dupe is Krita. Krita is a free program. It is, I believe, raster based like Photoshop, and it is completely free, and it is on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Next, we have GIMP. GIMP is free, but it is for Windows only. Then we have Paint.net, which is also for Windows or PC only. I know one phenomenal designer who's been a longtime mutual of mine who's used Paint.net for all of their projects, and it blows my mind because I would have had no idea that they make these in Paint.net. So, wow. And then another one that I found in my research that I have not used, but I have seen it mentioned online, is Photopea, and it's a browser-based type of program. I would really like to use it. I want to try using it because it sounds really interesting. And so you don't need a specific computer to be able to run this program because it all runs off of your browser. Next, for our Illustrator dupes, the top one that I hear quite often is Inkscape. It's free for Mac and Windows, but I have heard that Inkscape does run a little bit slower on Mac, and I do believe they're trying to fix that as I'm filming this. Next, we have Affinity, and Affinity is one of those like cool programs that's like a mix of Photoshop and Illustrator. It can work in raster and vector, which I think is really cool. It's $55 for the whole program. It's on Windows and Mac, and you have it for life. And I know there's a cheaper version for the iPad that I think is like $25. And then you also have that for life. You get free updates and everything. Wow, Affinity, you did it right. Could be open source, Affinity. Not get away completely free, but better than Adobe. And then the last one that I've seen people use for regular like vector-based design, but also for UX and UI design, and that is Figma. I feel like the UX for Figma is pretty similar to Sketch, which is a UX design-based program, but I've seen people make some pretty cool stuff in Figma. So those are the two big categories. If you have any other substitutions for Photoshop or Illustrator, or a raster program versus a vector-based program, let me know down in the comments. Next, we're gonna be moving on to the drawing category, is how I don't know, that's how I'm describing it. The fan favorite for the drawing category for tablets, like a regular tablet or an iPad, is Procreate. I am learning Procreate right now, and I swear to God, I'm fighting for my life in Procreate sometimes because I'm so bad at learning new programs. Procreate is $9.99. You have it for life, and people do some pretty insanely beautiful work in Procreate. It sounds like such a robust program, and I'm really excited to start using it more because I'm currently using Adobe Fresco, and Adobe Fresco is an incredibly frustrating program. It's super limiting, so I'm looking forward to learning Procreate. So $9.99 for life. Fantastic. Next, we have Charcoal, which I feel like is more like a regular sketchbook type of sketching app. That's completely free. And then we have this really interesting one that I found, and that's Paper by WeTransfer. It seems like a really interesting program, and I'm surprised that it came from WeTransfer. It's laid out kind of like a sketchbook, which I think is, I don't know, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I do like some new approaches to drawing apps, so I don't know. That one's pretty cool. It's free. Next, we have our InDesign dupes, or our layout programs as alternates to InDesign. The top one I think in this is Canva. Canva is free, but it also has paid versions. You can do a lot in Canva. I would consider it more of a layout program, but you could do a lot of other things. You could do like photo editing and stuff. You can do like some, not like vector-based stuff, but like some functions of Illustrator. Then we have Affinity Publisher, which is $49. It is pretty much like a pretty solid alternate to InDesign. I've heard some really good things about Affinity Publisher. It looks beautiful, and it's the same thing with a regular Affinity program. $49, you have it for life. Or it might be maybe $55. I don't remember. $50 to $55, somewhere in that range for Affinity Publisher, and you have it for life. And the last one I'm throwing in here for 3D because a lot of 3D programs can get pretty insanely expensive. I personally do not know any 3D programs, but I have a lot of friends who do 3D, and every single one of them started in Blender. If you don't know, Blender is an open source 3D design program. I think the UX of it is a little complicated. I do think there's a pretty steep learning curve to Blender, but it is completely free, and you can do some insane work in there. And 3D designers are in like huge demand right now, so just throwing that out there if you want to learn Blender. Make that little donut. I don't know. I do think that is the best 3D program. I am slowly learning it. I open it, I get frustrated in that program, and then I close it, but I'll learn it eventually, like Procreate. Does your website look like this? Or does it make you want to do this? Worry not. Squarespace is here to save the day. Squarespace is a website building platform Cal Lauren has used for years to host their amazing design portfolio along with a host of other fun projects. Whether you're making your own portfolio, a side project, business, whatever it may be, Squarespace has tons of beautiful, fully customizable templates for you to choose from. The drag and drop galleries make uploading multiple images at once super easy, and it automatically formats to everything based on your style guides. It has never been easier to build out your dream website through Squarespace. Have an issue or need some help? No worries. Squarespace has countless blog posts about individual templates and how to use each function, along with award-winning customer service if you need it. Head over to squarespace.com/CalLauren or click the link below to get 10% off your first purchase. Start building your portfolio bit by bit, and be sure to use code KELLAUREN, that's KELLAUREN, at checkout when you're ready to launch. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So those are my 5 categories of like my top favorite free graphic design resources. Free resources are super, super important in graphic design, not only for your client work, but it also helps make getting into graphic design way more accessible because you don't need to spend a lot of money or even any money to start working in this field, or even just not even working, but like playing around, learning, making some art. You don't need to spend any money to get into this field in regards to like programs. So I hope this was helpful. I hope other people who see this video will comment and leave some other suggestions that I know I forgot. But these are pretty much all of the ones that I came up with off the top of my head. So if you guys have any other suggestions, help us out, let us know down in the comment section. If you have an Adobe alternate program that you swear by, either one that I said or another one that I didn't mention, let people know down in the comments. It's really good to have like testimonial from other people in the community who have really great experience in one program and they think it might be better than other programs, and you guys can speak on it much better than I can. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you would like to have like a list of all of the things I mentioned here, there is a link in the description box below. If you want to download the kind of like document of all of these links with like little descriptions on what each one of them are, so you can just use it as like a cheat sheet, so you don't have to come back to this video whenever you need another resource. So go check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye. It's so hot!